Welcome back. We're in session 4 of the Business Handbook in section 1, Planning for a Better Business. And session 4 is Plan for Your Business Costs. Again, in session 4, you can see that at the top you've got that bold box with the objectives, the preparation, and materials you're going to need and the time. And again, this is about a 30-minute lesson. And as always, part 1 is reviewing the last lesson. We're going to move on directly to part 2. You should review the past lesson with them, depending on the amount of time you've spent between sessions. But we're going to move on right now to part 2. So part 2, you can see, is introducing the topic of planning for your business costs. And this should take about 12 minutes. And you can see that step 4 in the chart is planning for your business costs, and it's important to the success of your business, as you can see here. Successful business people know their costs. They manage their money carefully. Because our business money has been given to us by God, it's a resource given to us by God, we are responsible to manage it efficiently and in a way that honors Him. Now, you can see there's some scripture to support this. Psalm 24 verse 1 says, "The earth is the Lord's, and everything that is in it, the world and those who live in it." So if everything belongs to the Lord, what can we conclude about our business money? Obviously, it's part of what we need to manage to honor Him, right? And over what things has God made you a manager? This is another question to ask the group and solicit answers for them. And the kinds of things you're going to hear is, God has given me time on this earth, right? I should be managing my time and my life, my business, my talents, my abilities, my money, my material possessions, my relationships, and so forth. So He's entrusted us, the Lord has entrusted us with very much, right? He's given us much. And our business money is an important thing to God, just like everything else He's given to us. He cares about our money. God does. He cares about everything about us, and He does care about our money. Today, I invite you, and so you're speaking as the facilitator to the group, today I invite you to consider your business costs. So you're speaking to the participants. And now we want to recall the story of Mutezi and her small restaurant business. And here's her summary of her weekly costs of producing and selling the materials and selling the products of her business. And you recall she made a stew, she made a chapati bread, and she also made ugali, which is, kind of like a spiced donut, not necessarily a sweet donut like we might think of it in the Americas, but a spicy donut. So those are the kinds of things that she made and sold as part of her restaurant. So you can see the chart there describing Mutezi's business and what her weekly costs are. And you'll notice along the left side of the chart that it describes by the type of component of production, whether it's materials and supplies or labor or equipment. It describes the various costs that Mutezi must manage. So let's just take a look at these. You'll also notice that this chart is broken up into short-term costs and down below long-term costs. So we're going to cover both. So let's take a look at short-term costs first. You'll notice that it says for Mutezi's business, to the right of the numbers, it says Mutezi takes a loan of 2,000. This happens to be Rwandan francs, so they're talking about a business in Rwanda, FRW, 2,000 Rwandan francs at 5% for 1 month from her savings group to get her business started. She has the necessary equipment for cooking, but she needs money for the first weekly expenses. And you see by category there, it has materials and supplies as the first category, and that our weekly costs are 1,600 Rwandan francs. So Mutezi buys the flour, the oils, the onions, the garlics, the spices, the cleaning supplies, plastic bags from a local shop, it says there. Then category 2 of her production costs are the workers or the labor, right? And she pays 100 Rwandan francs weekly for that. She pays a wage to a single worker from her neighborhood. Then category 3, under services, 25 Rwandan francs per week. Mutezi takes the bus as her transport to the market each day. So that's her transportation cost. And then category 4, operating costs. And this, I think, includes probably her inventory. 225 Rwandan francs per week. She buys kerosene at 200 Rwandan francs for the week for her stove. And in addition, Mutesi must pay interest. I'm sorry, not inventory, but interest. The operating cost includes interest here on her loan of 25 Rwandan francs per week. And then you see there's a category 5 here, losses. Now this will be an interesting one, I think, for us to look at a little later. But losses, 25 Rwandan francs per week. It says here, Mutesi has many friends and relatives who visit her. She always offers them some stew free of charge. Sometimes they ask to use her materials and supplies as well. So she has losses because she's giving away some free material, some free finished product as well, some free stew to her friends and her relatives. So her weekly subtotal for these 5 categories is 1,975 Rwandan francs. You see them below the chart. It says, in addition to these weekly or short-term costs, Mutesi needs to consider her longer-term costs. Her longer-term business costs. She's going to need to replace or repair her stove, her pot, her wok utensils, her storage containers, and more. So she's going to need to replace them at some times. So we have a chart here now showing her longer-term costs. Category 6, equipment, and it has 40 per week. So let's see what it says about that. Mutesi decides to save 40 Rwandan francs each week to be ready in 2 years to replace her stove, pot, utensils, storage containers, and more. Then she will not have to borrow from the moneylender any longer. Okay, well, moneylender, or from her savings group rather. I think she's borrowing from her savings group. So if she saves 40 for each week for 2 years, so that's going to be a little over 2,000 Rwandan francs, and she's diligent every week saving 40 to do that. She'll be able to replace all these equipments and own them for herself. Then it says below, now we know that the weekly short-term cost and weekly long-term cost of Mutesi's business activity. Help me to calculate the total weekly costs, right? Short-term costs of 1,975 Rwandan francs plus weekly long-term cost of 40 is a total of 2,015 Rwandan francs per week. That's her cost. So she knows she's going to have to bring in income of more than that 2,015 Rwandan francs to make a profit, right? So let's continue. Why is it important to consider these short-term and these long-term costs? Well, the answer is, as we just described, income must cover both the short-term costs and the long-term costs. If income is not enough to cover both of these types of costs, then the business is losing money, and it won't be able to do that forever, right? Eventually, Mutesi will go out of business. She's got to make sure she can generate an income greater than those 2,015 Rwandan francs per week. So we say, thank you for reviewing Mutesi's business costs. Now it's time to become her business advisor. Okay, so you're the facilitator, you're talking to your group participants, and you're going to say, you guys are going to be business advisors, business consultants to Mutesi. And we want to talk about how she can better manage, how she can reduce her business costs and therefore increase her profit, right? How can we increase her profit by reducing costs? And whatever her income is, if we reduce her costs, make them lower, her profit margin will increase, right? And that's what we want to do. So let's identify in part 3, we're going to identify ways to reduce business costs. Let's read on. Mutesi has come to you for advice, wanting to be a good manager of her business money. She wants to know how to reduce her business costs. Review the costs of Mutesi's business plan and identify at least one way she can reduce her costs in each category. Okay? So what I'd like for you to do is go off in a group now, or in several groups, perhaps 3 to 5 people, depending on how many of you are gathered together. Go off and do some brainstorming in your groups of how could Mutesi reduce her business costs. Take about 10 minutes to do this, and then we'll return and discuss your answers. I'll see you then.